Thank you so much for joining us on a brand new episode of 420 Grams. Um, we're coming to you a day after the group stages came to an end. And the group stages with many pundits, former players, people who are there present are calling it possibly the best group stages the World Cup has ever seen. I don't know if you can label it as the best ever because it's subjective. Best का मतलब क्या है कि ज्यादा गोल देखे बेस्ट का मतलब क्या है कि आपने छोटी टीमों को बड़ी टीमों को मारते हुए देखा. There are too many things involved, but मेरे हिसाब से this was a eventful, possibly one of the most eventful group stages of the World Cup. And second, the biggest takeaway is कि जी जो फासला होता था छोटी और बड़ी टीम का वो कम होते हुए दिखा है, पक्का कम होते हुए दिखा है यहाँ पे. ये वो वाला ग्रुप स्टेज नहीं था कि जी जापान ने एक गोल मार दिया और फिर उसके बाद दिखे नहीं. ये वो वाला ग्रुप स्टेज था कि जी गोल मारा है, पीछे गए, फिर वापस आके गोल मारा और क्वालिफाई करके गए. ये वो वाला ग्रुप स्टेज था. एंड इसको बड़ी बारीकी से watching it very closely is our dear friend दाढ़ी वाले भाई who's been putting out his review on Instagram as well, the socialist review, the main man Siddhant Aney. Sir, before we get into group stages and everything, first tell me, what do you like the edits of the socialist review that I keep adding to your frames? I keep messing around a little bit because I feel a little flavor should be there with whatever you're presenting.
Bhai, what you do is what you do, man.
Yeah.
And at least a couple of people have commented on how you've named the storytelling,
Yeah,
and they've asked to engage in conversation. So I would like to say to those guys, like, let's engage, but not maybe on that Instagram messaging platform, because it's a longer conversation, it's a wider conversation. What works and what doesn't is the consequence of human history and how things are structured. But अभी की बात करते हैं ना, ये सब छोड़ो.
हाँ, नहीं तो अलग 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 चैप्टर खुल जाएगा वो. वहां
बिल्कुल
नहीं जा
बिल्कुल.
रहे. मैं आपसे एडिट पूछ रहा था, आप पता नहीं कहाँ ले गए.
नहीं
सोशलिस्ट
एडिट
रिव्यू इतना दिमाग
एडिट
न लगाओ. मैंने तो आपका नाम सोचा, मैंने कहा आप हो तो आपके साथ क्या है, सोशलिस्ट रिव्यू
जी
उस हिसाब से
बिल्कुल,
मैंने उसके
बहुत
आगे नहीं
बढ़िया
सोचा.
लगा.
पर आप ये बताओ सर, सहमत है आप? बेस्ट यू बिकॉज यू कैन कंपेयर, यू हैड the privilege of going to various World Cups, European Championships.
Yeah.
Is this the best ever? Can you label it the best ever group stages?
Yes, I think in many ways.
On what basis?
Yeah, yeah. On the basis of the fact that there have been so many, I think, unexpected results, man. And Asian teams, African teams are doing well. I think the demographic of this tournament is fundamentally different from any World Cup that I have seen in my lifetime.
In terms of success on the field?
No, even in terms of attending. Yeah. Even in terms of the vibes, even in terms of the structure of the tournament, all of it. So, if you call it a World Cup, right, then you have to include all of the world in it. There's a huge amount of statistics that indicate how much inequality there is. For example, there are about the same number of teams that compete for a qualifying spot in the World Cup from Europe and from Africa. And yet, the number of teams that qualify from Africa are far fewer.
No, that's clearly because of, I'm sure it has to do with past history, success rate on the field, so on and so forth.
No, it has to do with how the system is structured, right? It doesn't have to do with fairness. It doesn't have to do with equality. It doesn't have to do with quality or any of those things. It has to do with the fact that, like, there are, let's say, 54 teams are competing from the African continent. Out of them, 49 go home, 5 go to the World Cup.
But but वो आप वर्ल्ड कप जो हो रहा है, वर्ल्ड कप का मतलब है यस वर्ल्ड के सारे जो बेस्ट टीम्स हैं, बेस्ट बीइंग द की, should come and compete against each other. So उस लिहाज से probability of getting a better team from Europe is more than Africa, purely on historical results, purely on what they're doing.
Why? There are so
What has
many
African
players.
teams done? क्या किया
Huh?
African teams ने? आप बताओ.
No, and that is precisely the question and precisely the argument that African teams have not been able to, or Asian teams have not been able to do well at the World Cup because they have not had the chance to experience this kind of tournament system, this kind of tournament format, this kind of tournament environment. It's not that African players are not playing in the top leagues in Europe, right? Players that are representing the top teams from Africa are there. They are very much.
वो इंडिविजुअल की आप बात कर रहे हो ना सर, यहाँ
हाँ
टीम की
हाँ
बात करो ना आप.
बिल्कुल. सो अगर सिस्टम फेयर होता तो लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल फ्रॉम साउथ अमेरिका देयर आर 10 टीम्स राइट दैट compete for 5 spots, which means one in every 2 teams gets to qualify for the World Cup. On the other hand, just statistically looking at it, 54 teams are competing for 5 spots from Africa. Right? It's basic inequity. And this is a fact that has come to the fore, whether it's COVID-19 vaccinations, whether it's overall the debt scenario, whether it's, I mean, in any sort of context. Asia is doing slightly better. Same number of teams, almost the same number of teams for UEFA, but they are competing for 11 to 13 spots, right? So, inequity. And if this is going to be called a World Cup, not a World Cup run by white people, not a World Cup run by Europeans, then or if we even go by democracy or democratic ideas, then proportional representation has to be there, na?
सब्जेक्टिव है ना भाई. आप खेल की बात करो, आप उसको बात में लाओ ना यार. मैं आपको सिंपल सी बात कर रहा हूँ ना कि आप क्या किया है आपकी सर, जो आप कह रहे हो कि of the African players and nations that haven't been able to experience these tournaments, so क्योंकि आपने इतना एक्सपीरियंस नहीं किया, जब आप आते हो आप बौखला जाते हो, आप सांप सूंघ लेते हो और आप वापस फ्लाइट पकड़ के घर चले जाते हो. But what about your Cameroons? What about your Ghanas? What about your Senegals? What about your Nigerias? What have they been doing? Tell me, what have they been doing on a regular basis? Don't talk about a Senegal from this tournament. Don't talk about a Ghana from one tournament. What have they been doing regularly? How many semi-final appearances have they made? How many times have they even threatened to go to the quarterfinals?
So 2010, yesterday when Ghana played Uruguay, the whole it was almost the first time. Almost the first time. Like in 2010, it was almost the first time that an African team qualified for the semi-final stage of a World Cup, right? Or made it to the semi-final stage. The amount of hurdles you have to get through to get to that stage.
What hurdles, भाई? ऐसा कौन सा hurdle है? आप hurdle क्या है? 90 मिनट का गेम है, अब उसमें कुछ नहीं हो रहा, नहीं कर पा रहे वो, तो क्या hurdle है उसमें? See, I get your theory of 55 teams, 5 competing for it. यहाँ पे 1 and 2 has a chance of doing for it, but I don't know, भाई. If you look at it on sporting merit, if you look at it on sporting merit,
भाई वही बात हो जाती है ना, meritocracy की बात हो जाती है, और meritocracy is always a very selective sort of argument that those who have the privilege of benefiting from it can make. The rest of us cannot.
चलो ठीक है. I feel this will keep on going round and round in this conversation. But I'm glad you brought it up because it was a good talking point. But tell us about the games. Tell us about the final group games, and tell us about your thoughts on then next season or the next World Cup it being expanded, and possibly you might not get a match day 3. It might just be another format because you're trying to accommodate so many other teams. But just tell us about the games, man. Tell us about the games and how many games did you get right to go to the stadium? और असल में देखा?
I guess quite a few actually. I got more wrong than I got right, of course. Following France is one of the problems. And these days I have to also head to the media center and have a big fight with FIFA because I've been following France from, I think, at least Euro 2012, every major tournament, all of the games. But these gangsters have decided that like I don't merit a ticket to the France-Poland game. So,
अच्छा, What does that mean? If you're a member of the media, they decide you which one to give you accreditation for.
Oh yeah, for sure. And the color of your skin determines a lot of that, because they like to have a kind of homogeneous uh, press box. I think the
And
same kind of
and then
opinion, the same kind of perspective, the same kind of good-looking people.
yeah, and then you were wondering, people, why we call it the Socialist Review? Ba ba ba.
uh,
But
uh,
by keeping your discrimination and your lack of good looks aside,
yeah,
tell us about the football. Yeah. I think the beauty of this World Cup and the group stages is the football. And
amazing, isn't
would I
it?
be right in saying कि वो जो gap था वो छोटा होते हुए देखा है हमने अपनी आंखों के सामने.
Yeah, thoda bahut. And like smaller teams are proving it time and again. Um, I think Japan have done a great job of sort of
क्या
getting
खेल
their
रहे हैं
heads
भाई.
right.
हाँ
Yeah,
हाँ क्या
yeah,
खेल रहे हैं भाई.
yeah. I was talking to the coach in the post-match press conference after the game against Spain,
हाँ.
and I asked. He was saying like counter-attack was our theory, but what made the real difference, I think, was how high up they pressed.
The
Like,
intent, yeah,
yeah,
the intent.
absolutely. Intent, uh, intelligence,
Hmm.
speed, technical
Yeah.
quality of the players, right?
हाँ.
How they were doing on the second ball, it was absolutely phenomenal. And what Hajime said was that we've learned so much from the women's team,
Hmm.
who have gone on to win a World Cup, the only Asian team to have done that,
Hmm.
right? They have a tradition now, a history or a culture of uh, beating the best in the world, whether it's Brazil or the US
Yep. Yep. Top team.
in the women's game. Yeah. So going through a 1 month tournament, playing 7, 8 games, uh, improving game on game on game. Yeah. That's what Japan have demonstrated. And so he was
But
saying that,
what's the learning? Did he specify what was the learning he's taken from the women's team as
well,
to how to approach a tournament?
yeah, how to approach the tournament from a
Because
like
by those dynamics
mindset
for
point
them
of
are
view.
very different. They're not the Japan of men's football. They are the Japan or women's football. They're like a massive team
No,
in
but
the women's game.
so it takes time to build, right? And both of those structures have been built together. What is amazing about Japan is that they built this structure inclusively, where the game is accessible to men, women, other genders, those who don't sort of identify with any gender. Anyone can play the game, right? And at every level, there's the same kind of structure. So you have referees, you have a structured competition format. And what I guess they learn from one another uh, is then how to deal with the dynamics of what happens within the team, what happens
Uh-huh.
within in a dressing room when you lose a game. For example, like losing to Costa Rica, a game that like everyone thought after beating Germany, up to Japan jeetega, right? And yet Costa Rica pulled like this great performance out of their hats. Uh, Also, I guess Japan underperformed in that game. And like
Yeah.
before leaving for that Japan game, I was talking to a bunch of journalists and they were saying, "Oh, Spain, Japan, में क्या होने वाला है? Germany is the game to watch." I
भाई
was like,
वो
"Yeah,
यार वो तो आदि है भाई. ये तो आप भी होगे मैं भी होऊंगा. ये आदि की आप इतिहास कह रहा है कि जी आपने क्या किया है तो आप कह रहे हो अरे क्या होगा. क्योंकि देखो जी प्रिडिक्शन तो कोई भी कर सकता है ना. क्योंकि
hmm,
प्रिडिक्शन के पीछे आप कौन सी एनालिसिस लगा रहे हैं कौन सा प्रिडिक्शन के पीछे आप तो इतिहास में जो हुआ है आप देखते हैं जी 5 मुकाबलों में 5 स्पेन जीता है तो हम तो कहेंगे अब तुम कहाँ से स्पेन को हरा सकते हो. एंड टू बी
बिल्कुल, बिल्कुल."
फेयर in that first half it was Spain all the way. They were lucky, yeah.
All,
Japan.
yeah, except if you look at it from the perspective of how good Japan's defensive organization was, boss, which was quite phenomenal. And the goal that was conceded was perhaps against the run of play. I don't know, or maybe not against the run of play, but like
Hmm.
it was a mistake.
Yeah.
And when they came in from from halftime on, the game was completely changed. The fact is, here's an Asian team taking on a team that is perhaps in many ways the best in the world in terms of dominating possession, in terms of playing a compact game, in terms of sucking you in. Like they were doing this, and like in my notes, I've written the succubus, right? Because they are trying to draw you. They are trying to draw you into their half, yeah, so that then they can make space like they did in the previous games to then have space in midfield and running.
Yeah, bro,
Right?
and they're
And then
moving.
create
They're
options.
एक एक बताओ मैंने क्या भाई आप आपकी टैक्टिकल एनालिसिस की दाद देनी पड़ेगी क्योंकि एक तो ना टीवी पे आपको कुछ नहीं दिखता हालांकि इस बार होस्ट ब्रॉडकास्टर की दाद देनी पड़ेगी दे स्टार्टेड समथिंग कॉल्ड द हाइप मोड व्हिच इज ऑनलाइन वेयर यू गेट अ टैक्टिकल कैम भाई जो आपको पीछे से वो कैमरा देता है तो आप पूरा गेम ऐसे देख रहे हो तो बॉल यहाँ चल रहा है तो आपको पूरा दिख रहा है यहाँ मूवमेंट्स क्या हो रही हैं कैसे हो रहा है एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट तो उससे काफी कुछ पता चलता है बट
Yeah.
इट आई
On the rare occasions that FIFA media have given me a desk, I've also been watching it on that tactical on that on that tactical camera. Yeah, and it gives you a great sense by
या
not
भाई it tells you a
like
lot
looks apart. Like there are times when the entire length of the game has been played in like 20 meters.
absolutely
It's
yeah
absolutely stunning. Yeah.
brilliant
And for Japan to maintain that compactness, you know, the way the movement is happening off the ball, it's absolutely phenomenal. And I think full marks to these guys. They
we
are
are
not go on.
नहीं आप बोलो बोलो सॉरी आई गेट यू
No, no,
बिकॉज
go on,
उसका
go on, go
एक
on.
क्या था डिस्कशन जब वो क्रॉस द लाइन हुआ नहीं हुआ क्या एंगल था वो हाउ मेनी टाइम्स डिड दे शो द रीप्ले बिकॉज आजकल होता ये भी है ना कि कभी कभी फिर ब्रॉडकास्ट या फीफा अगर आप कह रहे हो एक कंटेंशियस डिसीजन है तो ज्यादा दिखाओ मत आगे निकलो पब्लिक मेमोरी के दिमाग से चले जाएगा
Yeah.
आपके उस टाइम पे स्टेडियम पे क्या हलचल मच रही थी वो यू गाइस कंफ्यूज्ड क्या हुआ है ये क्या चल रहा
Uh, at the stadium, it's hard to tell. I mean, like from the images, again, it's like a question of bias, right?
है
So I'm in it for Japan to win this game. Uh, Everyone else, the guy next to me, Guillaume Balague, the most famous Spanish football journalist in the world, with like 1 million plus followers on Twitter and Instagram and all that shit.
यू डिजर्व मोर
Huh? Sure,
You
sure.
deserve more,
I
my
do.
man.
I do, but I don't make the effort he does, right? He's in fact,
You- you-
no, come on, he's
Damn you,
putting
FIFA.
himself out there asking for votes as the best football journalist in the world. मतलब मुझे तो
What?
लगता है मैं best football journalist in the world हूँ.
हो सर आप हमारी आंखों में तो हो आप हम चैट पे
ना,
बोल देंगे अभी लड़कों जो बाय द वे इतने लोग देख रहे हैं 15 लोग देख रहे हैं
क्या बात
क्योंकि
है?
मैच चल रहा है मेरे हिसाब से पर जो भी है भाई लिखो एनी भाई इज द बेस्ट फुटबॉल जर्नलिस्ट यू एवर कम अक्रॉस
Yeah.
पर भाई हाँ जी आप बता रहे थे उसका उस टाइम क्या बातचीत हो रही थी बाहर को
No,
लेकर
so it's a question of perspective, yeah. And like we've talked about this multiple times. There's technology in the ball. There's VAR technology. There's this semi-automated offside technology. There's I don't know hundreds of cameras in the stadium that are watching and sensing every moment, not just of what the ball is doing, but also of what all of us are doing, right? So very selectively, these guys decide when it suits them to say yes, we are for technology, and the minute like sort of it doesn't work out, oh no, rubbish.
भाई आप खफा हो आप सॉलिड खफा हो क्योंकि मेरे को कोई आइडिया नहीं था कि आप इस लाइन पे जाने वाले हो आई थॉट वी वर गोना टॉक अबाउट द फुटबॉल एंड ऑल but is this World Cup turning out to be the the have nots sort of telling the haves ki hold on we are here
Well,
is, is
the
it is
thing
it
is,
turning out is it that kind of a zone is it that kind of a feel
the World Cup is a platform for the haves. This much has to be given, right? People who are attending this tournament are extremely privileged, including myself, right? Most of the world does not get a chance to be at a World Cup. Like even the people who have built this World Cup, the Indians, Bangladeshis, Nepalis, Pakistanis, Filipinos, etc., who have actually literally given their sweat and blood to build the infrastructure and build this tournament, build this country. Forget about anything else, right? They are sitting in a stadium outside and watching the World Cup from afar. Okay? So this is not a World Cup for, I mean, any World Cup. It's not a World Cup for the people or of the people or any of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is just a distraction. It is a reason to sort of go away from what is happening in real life and to
Yeah.
feel some kind of national pride, enjoy football, and to some extent, I think it's hugely important because football is a great sport. At some level, it reminds us of why we love sport, we love people, and we like to engage with one another because there's a language in this sport that we get a chance to communicate with anyone, whoever it is, wherever you're from, right? Whatever class of economy you
Yeah.
belong
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
society you
Yeah.
belong to, all of that, right?
True.
So, but at that said, it's not a tournament for everyone. Tickets are hugely expensive, hugely
How much?
expensive.
How much are tickets for?
I can't even say, I mean, like what they are officially or what happens otherwise. But like, because people
Ballpark.
in this part of the world also earn a great deal more than what they do in the rest of the world,
Hmm.
the prices have gone up that much more exponentially, right? Uh, at the same time, I have seen that employers in Qatar, in Saudi, in all of these places are giving tickets to their junior employees who can't afford to buy tickets themselves to attend games, to get a feel of the atmosphere, to get a sense of what all of this means, and that's why all of these so-called fake fans are
Hmm.
attending the tournaments. Indians and Pakistanis and Bangladeshis and all of these people are supporting France and Germany and all of these countries,
Hmm.
right? Because I think there is an appreciation for the effort, the labor that has gone in by all of us. I'm not saying myself, I'm saying people like us from the countries that we belong to build not just this tournament, but this entire country, this entire nation, and this entire organization in that sense. So, employers, I think, across the board are giving their junior employees a chance to attend the World Cup, get a feel of it, and so you see people across the spectrum attending tournaments. Like there was a guy sitting next to me, almost in the press box, who was
Hmm.
wearing a Bangladesh T20 World Cup jersey. You know,
Hmm. Hmm.
that kind of stuff is going on.
It's
There
that
are
part of the world, na bhai. The
everywhere.
familiarity to all those things are a lot
Yeah,
more.
absolutely. Yeah, and it's so important, and it kind of changes the entire vibe of the place. It changes the entire narrative of uh, the situation, and that's why the Europeans are so pissed off. And I'm loving it, to be honest. Like
Right?
you, you, you see any white male, huh? And
Uh,
invariably he's pissed off because he या तो उसको बेर नहीं मिल रही है
hmm.
या या उसको उतना preference नहीं मिल रहा है या no
Yeah.
one gives a shit about his opinion. So all of these things are playing a part in how this World Cup is unfolding. Unfortunately, this is probably the last time it will happen
Hmm. Yeah.
because next time it's the come World Cup.
भाई आपकी ना दाद देनी पड़ेगी which is why
By,
you're the
by,
best by
by
the
come,
way.
I mean Canada, US, Mexico. By the
वो हम आपका जोक समझ गया बट
way.
वेल डन पर आपकी दाद देनी पड़ेगी क्योंकि आपने कतर में भी जाके मोर्चे निकाल दिए हैं। ये आप ही कर सकते हो, ये आपकी हम बात मानते हैं। आपके जो चाहने वाले हैं वो भी Khelan Enkhti is saying Aney is the best. Shekhar is saying Aney the GOAT. Shubham is saying when Indian football goes big, Aney will have 10 million followers.
Sure.
Consultant Arijit Chatterjee saying Annie rocks. Here, Hitnari C is saying Comrade Annie, we love you. Sir, हार
जो
ना मानो
गाली दे
आप.
रहे हैं उनका आप कमेंट मेंशन नहीं कर रहे हैं
नहीं उन्होंने कुछ बोला नहीं, 20 तो लोग हैं, गाली कौन देगा? नहीं, पर मैं कह रहा हूँ हार ना मानो। जो अगला सोशलिस्ट रिव्यू होना चाहिए ना, एक तो आप करो आज के मुकाबलों पे, जो आप करते ही हो हर दिन रेगुलरली करो, पर एक आप अपना एक इनसाइड ओपिनियन दो ऑन हाउ you felt when you were going to World Cups in the past and this World Cup over here and the preferential treatment from FIFA. इन चीजों के बारे में बताओ ना यार,
Not
बंदे
from
समझना
FIFA,
चाहते हैं ये सब।
not from FIFA. And the FIFA rant is separate, and I'll save that for
हाँ तो
another.
उसको हाँ, मतलब आपके अंदर रैंट है तो उनको निकालो, हमें भी सुनाओ, बिकॉज आप ऐसी ऐसी जगहों पे जा रहे हो, यू नो, वी कंसिडर इट अ प्रिविलेज फॉर यू टू एक्सपीरियंस ऑल दीज थिंग्स, गुड और
I
बैड।
have to do, boss. It is a
हाँ,
privilege.
सो यू मस्ट शेयर इट विद पीपल भाई, बहुत जरूरी है कि आप लोगों का शेयर करें। गिलेम बालाग ऐसे नहीं बनता, वो अपनी कल को वो उसकी सूसू कौन से रंग की होगी वो भी डाल देता है वो ऑनलाइन, हाँ, लगा रहता है आदमी वो। तो फिर आप भी बताइए हमें इसके बारे में। Sorry, I've crossed the line a little bit, but we'll come back. You started it with that joke, so you got me into the zone, but I'm coming back. Did you see the Korea game?
I did, yeah.
And what was it? Good scene? Because I genuinely, I was having this conversation today with someone, and I feel so far of all the strongest teams, Portugal is looking the strongest to go and win the World Cup. I cannot say other than Portugal, कोई भी team है जो जाके जीतेगी ये World Cup.
France,
तो Portugal को don't know. I mean,
no,
close second.
I
Close second. I'll give you that. Close second. But to beat that
know.
Portugal, I'm saying.
I guess
To
it's an
beat that
argument,
Portugal.
but like for me, France have demonstrated almost zero weakness in this tournament. Apart from like a little bit of like defensive frailty in the sense that वो कभी भी सो जाते हैं, I guess.
नहीं, पर मैं कोरिया की बात पूछ रहा हूँ कि वो इतनी तगड़ी टीम है, एक मुकाबले में where you need the result and then to come back and get it. What was that like? How good is that team? How good is the
Yeah,
team
no,
looking?
so it's also a consequence of where Portugal were positioned at that point, right? Because they have already qualified. So
Yeah,
they are resting some of their key players. They
yeah, but
are not.
they didn't do a which was that team that rested 8-9 players? The France. They didn't do a France ना, वो तो
Yeah,
अलग ही सीन था।
yeah,
तो यहाँ पे तो
yeah.
आपकी टीम तब भी खेल रही है।
हाँ, बिल्कुल, बिल्कुल, बिल्कुल. And that's why I think the celebrations from the Korean players were that much more. I mean, you have some of the top players in the world, and I think not just for Korea, but like for Korea and Japan, this is testament to the fact that like we can play, we can if we build a structure, if we take our time over it, right, and if we invest in sort of grassroots up development of the sport, then I don't know. There's no reason why we can't come back from
But it
even
takes
a.
time. It
Of
takes
course,
time.
it is.
It takes
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah.
Takes
So,
time.
which is why, like, I think we put that picture up a couple of days ago about India playing at 2030 or 2026.
Yeah, not happening.
I think some big Instagram channel said 2026 India maybe. No, it happens.
Not happening. Not happening.
Not happening. Bro. We have to be realistic about these things, yeah.
Yeah.
Because a structure
And
has to be created. And we've been talking about this on 420 grams for कितना 10-12 साल हो गए.
हाँ, बहुत टाइम हो गया भाई।
Yeah. तो
स्ट्रक्चर
मतलब
था, हाँ,
we don't have to take a page out of some imaginary like some fantasy tale somewhere, right? These guys have set an example, a precedent, and also football is not rocket science. Everyone in the world plays this sport. Everyone in the world owns this sport. If you want to play a World Cup, we have to do like everyone else does.
I'll ask you, okay, because we decided we won't go across the 30-minute mark.
Yeah,
Because there's lots of the World Cup left right now.
yeah.
I just wanted to give you some good news. जो आपने लास्ट सोशलिस्ट रिव्यू डाला था
हम्म,
इंस्टाग्राम पे,
वो किसी
उसको
ने
हमारे इंडियन कोच ने लाइक किया सर।
Indian coach मतलब
उन्होंने
Srimatch.
इगोर स्टीमैच साहब ने ट्विटर पे लाइक किया उसे सर.
I'm hoping I have been and shout out to Igor
Hmm.
because he's very responsive on WhatsApp and all of that.
Hmm.
I think he's back in India doing some programs for the host
He's with the
broadcaster.
broadcaster.
Yeah, I also met. I think Vaishali is their name, who's doing the sort of on-field reporting for the host broadcaster in India. I
Okay.
happened to see them. I don't know at the stadium, so I went and said hi. Um, but I think Igor is doing some kind of pre-shows or post-shows or whatever.
वो
But he said
broadcast कर
he'll
रहा
be in
है.
Doha after the quarterfinals.
हाँ.
So yeah, so we are in sort of in touch on text, and then when he gets here, I hope and I'm sure he'll be on the show.
Done by. Done.
Also, a bunch of other people. Like I met a journalist from Google Japan yesterday. They're on 420 grams and my Instagram. So we'll have them on to talk about what's happening with Japan. I think we'll talk about multiple things. I also
So
want to
you
talk.
must ना भाई.
Yeah, I also want to talk about Palestine a bit, man. If you have the time.
Sir, you're the socialist reviewer. Go for it.
No, it's just been amazing how much solidarity and support there has been for the Palestinian cause here in Qatar. Because, I mean, of course, it's a World Cup that's happening in the MENA region, Middle East, North Africa. Uh, it's been amazing, actually. I have never ever been to a football tournament where fans from across countries are getting together and like hanging out and saying like we're in it together. They're celebrating each other's victories, commiserating each other's losses, and saying like ये अपना tournament है, right?
Palestine का क्या है फिर?
And yeah, and Palestine has been one of the things that, or one of the causes that is uniting all of this region. So in the Tunisia game, in against France, in Morocco's game, actually in most public scenarios, the Palestinian cause has been upfront, has been vocalized, like audiences, people are actually saying why and how Palestine should be free and showing solidarity with the cause, essentially. And aside from all the other divisive politics that are going on, West versus East or North
वो तो
versus
बहुत ही हो रहा है. तो आपकी बातें सुन के समझ आ रहा है कि हो रहा है.
However you look at it, this is one thing that unites everyone, right? That here is a nation, a people that are being oppressed, transgressed against, and at least in this part of the world, there is some solidarity. And it also comes across as like some kind of opposition to governments in a part of the world where protests are not allowed. मतलब होता ही नहीं है यहाँ पे प्रोटेस्ट का कॉन्सेप्ट ही नहीं है ना ये क्या कहते हैं किंगडम है मोस्टली तो it's not a in that sense in the western sense a democracy so despite all of that the Palestinian cause is one that is looked at as favorable for everyone and
fair point. ठीक है भाई. एक सवाल आया है गौरव कानेकर साहब से. ब्रो, व्हाट इज द स्टेटस ऑफ अल्कोहल अवेलेबिलिटी इन द कंट्री? और जल्दी बताओ क्योंकि हम वी आर गोइंग ओवर टाइम नाउ.
मतलब if you're a foreigner I think you can get a permit and buy alcohol.
अच्छा, परमिट चाहिए होता है आपको?
And there are bars that sell.
अच्छा जरा बाहर से चल ठीक है
Yeah.
जी I hope
So,
that
like bars,
answers your
I think
question
it's
Gaurav.
visible at the FIFA fan zone as well.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So only at
Sorted.
the stadiums there's no alcohol, but like at the FIFA fan zones where fans go and watch games, and at bars in which are mostly in hotels, alcohol is available. I don't
Okay.
know, I haven't been, but that's what I've been told.
Sorted. Socialist review, a reviewer, sorry. Thank you for your time. We want more of this, what you gave us today, in what you're putting out in the socialist review. You're talking about the game, that's nice. But tell us about your experience. Tell us about how you're feeling and your day-to-day experience. Just give it to us regularly on Instagram. We'll be putting it out on our channel on 420 grams. The socialist review. We put out 2 episodes, and hopefully, the aim is to put one every day now till the end of the tournament. And of course, Siddhant and I will again get back together in a few days and have a detailed conversation on something else. This time, focusing more on the football.
Yeah.
I'll try chipping in a little more rather than just Aney
Yeah,
blowing his own
I've been
horn.
doing a bunch of tactical work, brother. Like making notes on movement and shit.
क्या
I
बात
can
है
show
भाई
you. Yeah.
सर आप दिखा
So,
दीजिएगा
हाँ
आप दिखा दीजिएगा
हाँ बिल्कुल।
बात करेंगे
मतलब अगर वहाँ भी या उस एंगल से भी बात करनी है तो करते हैं। एंड
ठीक है भाई
जापान
एंड कोरिया यार मान गए भाई
yeah, I mean, I didn't watch so much of the Korea game, but like for me, Japan and how they sort of tactically changed the dynamic,
अरे
especially
भाई
going to the second half. I mean, and like,
खेल रहे हैं अब
really, matlab, I was
मैच
watching
कर
that
रहे हैं
game and like within,
भाई
you
मैं
know,
एक
bol,
अच्छा पॉइंट निकाल रहा हूँ कि हम कह रहे हैं दे आर प्लेइंग कैच अप बट आर द यूरोपियन टीम्स लुकिंग अ लिटिल वीक लुकिंग अ लिटिल I know you part of you looking frazzled and weak is because of what the opposition is doing to you. Agreed. But uh, would you say they're not looking the strongest? The mighty Europeans or uh, the
yeah,
Argentinians. So I
no, I think they're a bit frazzled, bro. So like it's an important part to mention, I think, and we haven't mentioned it so far. But like in the stadium, right? Ultra Nippon, for example, right?
hmm.
They are singing the songs for the entire
Ultra
90
Nippon
minutes.
are the Jap fans, huh? Japanese
Yeah, yeah,
fans.
yeah. They are singing the songs for the entire 90 minutes,
Hmm,
right?
hmm.
You might have a bunch of people wearing red shirts, but the fact is that very few Europeans have come here because whatever, again, same xenophobic ideas, same ideas of कि oh, ये पता नहीं यहाँ पे क्या होगा जाके हमें जेल
Hmm,
में डाल
hmm, hmm.
देंगे etc.
ब्रो आप एक सोशलिस्ट रिव्यू करो भाई आप मैं आपके अंदर बहुत
जो भी
सारा
है जो भी है
है आप निकालो
point
उसे
is point is Spain could not get a single chant going through the game, bro, right? And your fans no doubt get your team going, yeah. And when there's a bunch of people, and like these guys have been here from the start of the tournament, and they've been growing in numbers. The sort of size of the क्या कहते हैं क्या कहते हैं उसको जो भी है stadium contingent जो
हाँ
भी है
हाँ
has been growing, right? So they've been growing in volume, they've been growing in number, all of those things, right? So not only was Spain outplayed on the pitch, they were outplayed in the stands as well. Like these guys could barely get a chant going, Espana, Espana, or whatever the hell they sing. Huh? It didn't happen. It really didn't happen, honestly. So when you need that lift, right? Because you also play off those kind of things, vibes and things like that, right? It's important why home games versus away games are so important. And here, these guys, and that's why this is like an Asian tournament, and it would be really, really amazing if one of these outsider teams kind of
Hmm,
carry it on and do it well. And the Japanese, I mean, aside from like, I'm not saying that I'm a big fan of what's happening in Japanese politics right now, because that is a separate concern altogether. But just in terms of representing a continent and an idea that football is played by the whole world, they are waving the flag. Uh,
ठीक है,
and
fair
and
fair
I
point भाई.
also really enjoy Europeans feeling uncomfortable. It's
बस
like
तभी
wow.
मैं कह रहा हूँ भाई, आप अब आपको मिल गया अपना सोशलिस्ट रिव्यू. ये एंगल आपने हमें दुकान सुना नहीं है हमें हर दिन, तो आप प्लीज ठान लो और हमें सुनाओ ये सब एंगल्स. कैसा आपको लग रहा है? जो आपको लग रहा है हमें बताइए. हम नहीं चाहते कि रिजल्ट क्या हुआ, किसने कितने गोल मारे. एनीवन कैन एक्सेस दैट. इट्स प्रीटी इजी. हम नहीं चाहते कि इतने पास हुए. दैट कैन आल्सो बी एक्सेस, बट वी
Thank
कैन
you
नॉट
for the
एक्सेस.
feedback, my friend.
We cannot access all that is within you. We want that because that is gold. ठीक है भाई. And hopefully we'll join again. Siddhant, Aney, you're going for Argentina versus Australia now. Hope it turns out to be a decent game. Enjoy yourself, bhai.
Hopefully, I make
And
it.
hopefully you make it. And if you do, please send us something for the socialist review tomorrow, and let it not just be the result. You've given us the meat now. Now you know which direction to go. Jai Mata Di. See you.